So Donald Trump, this autocratic menace who thinks he's king, he's back to attacking the one institution that's like meant to be beyond his grubby political reach. This whole I don't know, this whole catastrophe of a monologue is a masterclass in economic ignorance and just, sheer unadulterated narcissism, proving once again that the man wouldn't know a sound monetary policy if it bit him on his spray tanned ass. It's just unbelievable, isn't it? He gets everything so backward. He's mad at Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, for not magically making interest rates disappear. The same Jerome Powell he appointed in the first place. This is a guy who thinks running a national economy is the same as like bullying a contractor into giving you a discount on gold-plated toilets for one of your failing casinos. It's pure delusion from a world-class buffoon. Or maybe it's not delusion. No, it's delusion. And the language he uses, it's not just criticism. It's the whiny complaint of a spoiled child who can't get his way. He calls Powell a stupid person, a guy that's not a smart person, over and over and over again. It reminds me of being on the playground in, third grade, I think. Third grade, when some kid would just repeat the same insult because his brain couldn't come up with anything else. That's the intellectual level we're dealing with here, folks. Our little guy is having a tantrum, isn't he? But, look, don't just take my word for it. You need to see the whole unhinged performance to really get the picture. This is what this absolute psycho is telling people. I'm going to play you the clip.
Very nice, very patriotic. We're doing well and as a country. If the Fed would ever lower rates, would buy debt for a lot less. It's a shame. This guy, do you ever have a guy that's not a smart person and you're dealing with him and you have to deal? He's not a smart guy. He's worried about inflation. I said, that's right. If there's inflation in 6 months or 9 months, you lower the rates or you raise the rates. You can do whatever you want, Brian, right? So let's say there's rampant inflation, which there's none. You know what there is? There's success. I got a call from Congress last night. Sir, there's a problem. I said, what is it? Money is pouring in. We don't know how to account for it. I said, check the tariffs. $88 billion came in from tariffs. No inflation. And it's going to get even more so. I know what I'm doing. So we have a stupid person, frankly, at the Fed. He probably won't cut today. Europe had 10 cuts, and we had none. And I guess he's a political guy. I don't know. He's a political guy who's not a smart person, but he's costing the country a fortune. So what I'm going to do is, he gets out in about 9 months. He gets fortunately terminated. Biden, I would have never reappointed him. Biden reappointed him. I don't know why that is, but I guess maybe he was a Democrat. I got great advice from Mnuchin on this one. Great advice. But he's done a poor job. So we have no inflation. We have only success. And I'd like to see interest rates get down. Now, Biden did a lot of very short-term debt. So we have short-term debt coming due. And because of this guy's rates, if he'd lowered a point, I'd pay about a point less. Then if he'd lowered 2 points, I'd pay about 2 points less. And that's for 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, 5 years. It's hundreds of billions. It's even trillions of dollars that we're going to lose because of this too late. I call him Too Late Powell because he's always too late. I mean, if you look at him, every time I did this, I was right 100%. He was wrong. Maybe I should go to the Fed. Am I allowed to appoint myself, Doug? I don't know. Am I allowed to appoint myself at the Fed? I do a much better job than these people. So anyway, we should be 2 points lower. It'd be nice to be two.
He's like just a stupid person. My God. The projection is so strong it could power a small city. This is the core of his entire worldview. Anyone who doesn't do exactly what he wants when he wants it is an idiot, a moron, a stupid person. There's no room for policy disagreement, no understanding of complex economic factors, and certainly no respect for the independence of the Federal Reserve. It's the kind of simplistic black and white thinking you expect from a toddler, not the person with his finger on the damn button. And did you catch that little gem? Maybe I should go to the Fed. Am I allowed to appoint myself? He says it like he's joking, but he's not really. That's the autocratic menace talking, the part of him that genuinely believes he should have total, unquestioned control over every lever of power. The economy, the military, the justice system, and the goddamn weather if he could. This is the stuff of banana republics, the kind of move a tin pot dictator pulls. It's a chilling little peek behind the curtain into his pathetic, power-hungry soul. Now let's get into his economic analysis. He claims there's no inflation and that his tariffs are just a magic money machine pouring $88 billion into the treasury with like zero consequences. This is a complete fairy tale. Tariffs are taxes on your own people. The importers, they pay them and then they pass that cost right on to consumers. You know, us, that's why your trip to Target or Walmart gets more expensive. It's not some genius 4D chess move. It's a tax on the American people to fund his ego trip. He's either too stupid to understand that, or more likely, he's a lying grifter who knows you'll pay the price. This is exactly why the Federal Reserve is designed to be independent. You cannot have presidents, especially a psycho narcissist like Trump, directly controlling interest rates to juice the economy for their own political gain right before an election. That path leads to hyperinflation and economic ruin every single time. The Fed's job is to look at the long-term health of the economy, to manage both employment and inflatione dual mandatino, to give the president a temporary polling boost. Having a stable, predictable, and independent monetary policy is a cornerstone of a functioning democracy, and this clown wants to smash it with a sledgehammer for his own benefit. Now, for a little contrast, let's see how the actual chairman of the Federal Reserve, the stupid person, responds when he's asked about this kind of political pressure and these childish insults. Here's what Jerome Powell said when a reporter asked him about Trump's attacks. It's quite the change of pace. Let's play this clip.
Michael McKee from Bloomberg Radio and Television. Your friend down at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue continues to lob insults in your direction. And I'm wondering, given now that the Supreme Court has maybe carved out the Fed from some of the legal implications of that, whether this is just noise that the markets and everybody should ignore until your term is up, or whether you worry that it could lead to more pressure on confidence on Wall Street, on consumers about the outlook for the economy.
Look, from my standpoint, it's not complicated. What everyone on the FOMC wants is a good, solid American economy with a strong labor market and price stability. That's what we want. We think our policy is well positioned to, right now, to deliver that and to be able to respond in a timely way as the data lead us around. The economy's been resilient, and part of that is our stance. And again, we think we're in a good place on that to respond to significant economic developments. That's what matters. That is what matters to us. Pretty much that's all that matters to us.
Did you feel that? The sudden drop in chaos? The absence of whining, insults, and deranged conspiracy theories? That was the feeling of a grown-up entering the room. Powell, he doesn't take the bait. He doesn't call Trump a coward or a lunatic. He just calmly, almost boringly, states the mission. The contrast is deafening, right? On one side, you have the loud, hot, gaseous air of a narcissistic sellout. And on the other, you have the quiet, cool, data-driven world of an actual public servant. It's not exciting, but goddamn, it's what you want from the guy in charge of the money supply. He said it right there. A strong labor market and price stability. That, my friends, is the dual mandate Congress gave the Federal Reserve. It's his job to balance those two things. Keep people employed and keep inflation in check. Trump, our little autocratic menace, only cares about one thing. Lower interest rates to make the stock market go up and make him look good. He doesn't give a damn about stable prices or the long-term damage that could do to your savings, your wages, or the cost of, everything. And this brings us back to Trump's ridiculous lies. These aren't just misstatements. They are elaborate fantasies designed to make him look like a genius. Let's talk about his bedtime story of getting a call from Congress, because so much money was pouring in from tariffs, they didn't know how to account for it. That's not how any of this works at all. Congress doesn't call the president about daily Treasury accounting. The Treasury Department handles that, and they sure as hell wouldn't be confused by tarification, whatever, tariff revenue. It's a pathetic, made-up story, a child's fantasy of being so successful that the bean counters can't even keep up. It's an insult to our intelligence. The scariest part of this whole meltdown is how he repeats the lie. He tells the story twice. I mean, twice in that one speech, almost like he's trying to convince himself it's true. First, it was last night, then it was 3 nights ago. This is a classic gaslighter technique. He creates this alternate reality where his policies are a wild success, where foreign countries are just handing us money, and where he's the only one smart enough to see it. It's a closed loop of self-serving propaganda, and his bootlicking followers eat it up with a spoon. It's pretty wild. So you have Trump's world of fantasy, insults, and strongman posturing, and then you have Powell's world, which is grounded in data and that dual mandate. So what does the data actually say? Is Trump right that there's no inflation and the economy is just roaring with only success? Or is Powell right to be cautious? Let's listen to Powell actually explain the state of the economy based on, facts and numbers. It's a little more complex than stupid person says no. Here's the clip.
Following growth of 2.5% last year, GDP was reported to have edged down in the first quarter, reflecting swings in net exports that were driven by businesses bringing in imports ahead of potential tariffs. This unusual swing has complicated GDP measurement. Private domestic final purchases, or PDFP as we call them, which excludes net exports, inventory investment, and government spending, grew at a solid 2.5% rate. Within PDFP, growth of consumer spending moderated, while investment in equipment and intangibles rebounded from weakness in the fourth quarter. Surveys of households and businesses, however, report a decline in sentiment over recent months and elevated uncertainty about the economic outlook, largely reflecting trade policy concerns. It remains to be seen how these developments might affect future spending and investment. In our summary of economic projections, the median participant projects GDP to rise 1.4% this year and 1.6% next year, somewhat slower than projected in March. In the labor market, conditions have remained solid. Payroll job gains averaged 135,000 per month over the past 3 months. The unemployment rate, at 4.2%, remains low and has stayed in a narrow range for the past year. Wage growth has continued to moderate while still outpacing inflation. Overall, a wide set of indicators suggests that conditions in the labor market are broadly in balance and consistent with maximum employment. The labor market is not a source of significant inflationary pressures. The median projection for the unemployment rate in the SEP is 4.5% at the end of this year and next, a bit higher than projected in March. Inflation has eased significantly from its highs in mid-2022, but remains somewhat elevated relative to our 2% longer-run goal. Estimates based on the Consumer Price Index and other data indicate that total PCE prices rose 2.3% over the 12 months ending in May, and that, excluding the volatile food and energy categories, core PCE prices rose 2.6%. Near-term measures of inflation expectations have moved up over recent months, as reflected in both market and survey-based measures. Respondents to surveys of consumers, businesses, and professional forecasters point to tariffs as the driving factor. Beyond the next year or so, however, most measures of longer-term expectations remain consistent with our 2% inflation goal. The median projection in the SEP for total PCE inflation this year is 3%, somewhat higher than projected in March. The median inflation projection falls to 2.4% in 2026 and 2.1% in 2027. Our monetary policy actions are guided by our dual mandate to promote maximum employment and stable prices for the American people. At today's meeting, the committee decided to maintain the target range for the federal funds rate at 4.25% to 4.5%, and to continue reducing the size of our balance sheet. We will continue to determine the appropriate stance of monetary policy based on the incoming data, the evolving outlook, and the balance of risks. Changes to trade, immigration, fiscal, and regulatory policies continue to evolve, and their effects on the economy remain uncertain. The effects of tariffs will depend, among other things, on their ultimate level. Expectations of that level, and thus of the related economic effects, reached a peak in April and have since declined. Even so, increases in tariffs this year are likely to push up prices and weigh on economic activity.
Okay, I know. That was a lot of jargon. PDFP, PCE, dual mandate, it's not exactly thrilling stuff. But that right there is the sound of reality. It's complicated, it's nuanced, and it doesn't fit on a damn bumper sticker. While Trump is screaming that there's no inflation, Powell is laying out the numbers. PCE inflation at 2.3%, core at 2.6%. That is by definition not no inflation. It's lower, thank God, but it's still above the 2% target. For Trump to deny that isn't just spin, well, it is spin, but it's also a blatant, easily disprovable lie from a complete imbecile. And did you catch the part about tariffs? Powell, the actual economist, directly contradicts Trump's fantasy. He says, clear as day, that businesses and forecasters see tariffs as a driver of inflation and that they are likely to push up prices and weigh on economic activity. So the magic money machine that Trump the grifter brags about is, in the real world, making things more expensive for you and slowing down the economy. Trump's solution is the freaking problem. What a clown. He also talked about something called PDFP, which is basically a way to measure the real strength of the economy by taking out the weird jumpy numbers from international trade and government spending. It gives you a clearer picture of how much regular people and businesses are actually spending and investing. So while the main GDP number looked a little weak, this more stable number was still solid. That level of careful, detailed analysis is crucial. Our little guy Trump, on the other hand, he just finds one number he likes, ignores the rest, and screams, "Success!" It's the economic equivalent of a toddler showing you a drawing of a scribble and calling it a masterpiece. This stuff actually matters. Powell is worried about that 2.3% inflation because he knows it's what kicks you in the teeth at the grocery store, at the gas pump, and when you pay your rent. I remember a while back, it felt like the price of just a simple loaf of bread was jumping up every other week. That's not an abstract number on a chart. That's the slow, grinding pressure that squeezes families. Trump's demand to just slash rates and ignore that pressure is profoundly reckless and shows he doesn't give a damn about the financial reality of normal people. He just wants a good headline. That's it. So what we have here is a fundamental, dangerous conflict. You have a would-be autocratic menace who demands loyalty to his person and his political needs, who will lie and bully and attack any institution that stands in his way. And then you have the institution itself represented by this admittedly boring guy who is trying to do his job based on facts and a legal mandate to serve the American people, not the president's ego. This isn't just a disagreement over interest rates, it's a battle for the integrity of our entire system. This is the whole damn story. I mean, this is it. Every time you see this man speak, you see this playbook in action. He finds an expert, a public servant, or an institution that operates on facts and principles, and he tries to demolish it with insults and lies because it won't bend to his will. He's not arguing policy, he's demanding fealty. He is a puppet master who gets enraged when the strings are cut, and the Fed is one of the few puppets that refuses to dance for him. And this attack isn't a strategy. I don't think it is anyway. It's a confession of his own weakness and his contempt for any power that isn't his own. He even brings up that moronic talking point about Europe. Europe had 10 cuts and we had none. Yeah, you dirtbag, because Europe's economy is not our economy. They have different growth rates, different inflation challenges, and different labor market situations. Central banks, they tailor their policies to their specific economic conditions. That's the entire point. To suggest we should just copy them is like saying your doctor should give you a cast for your broken leg because your neighbor is getting one for his broken arm. It is mind-numbingly stupid, and it proves he has zero grasp of how any of this works. And this isn't just about Jerome Powell or the Federal Reserve. This is the exact same tactic he uses against the Department of Justice, against election officials who won't find him votes, and against any journalist who doesn't just reprint his lies verbatim. It is a systematic campaign by a wannabe dictator to discredit every single institution of American democracy that could hold him accountable. The Fed is just another target on his list, another pillar of our republic that he wants to bulldoze to clear a path for his own absolute power. So, yeah, the details of monetary policy can be boring. I get it. The calm, measured tone of someone like Jerome Powell doesn't get your blood pumping like the unhinged rantings of a reality TV show psycho, but you have to choose which one you want running the country, right? Do you want the occasional headache of a complex, functioning, and independent system designed to protect everyone? Or do you want the constant, throbbing migraine of a government run by the whims of one deeply unstable, narcissistic cultist? Because that is the choice. Don't let the noise drown out the truth. Don't let the village idiot convince you he's a genius just because he yells the loudest. The stakes are too damn high. Stay angry, stay informed, and don't ever buy the snake oil this grifter is selling. Thank you so much for watching. It really does mean the world to me that you take the time. If you haven't already, please do make sure to subscribe to the channel down below. Honestly, it's the single biggest thing you can do to help out, and it goes an incredibly long way in fighting the YouTube algorithm. And if you could maybe drop a like on the video and leave a comment, let me know what you think about this story. Were you at one of the protests? What was the energy like in your city? I try to read as many of the comments as I possibly can, and I'm genuinely curious to hear about your experiences. As I always say, I greatly appreciate you all. The fact that there's a community of people here who are willing to call out this kind of garbage and stay engaged in the fight for, basic truth and democracy. It's the whole reason I do this. So, thank you.